tobacco lobby in Washington, the tobacco lobby in New York State, they still have just as much juice as they ever had. In fact, they've used their will in Washington and Albany to basically turn on us. Even when we were marketing their products exclusively, they were right in our corner. In fact, they were paying tens of thousands of dollars for shelving contracts. They were paying all kinds of money to our people. But once we started producing our own brands, because we saw the handwriting on the wall, we knew at some point the state, and because we saw the arguments that were made in Moe and Colville, we saw the arguments that were made in the Attia case. And one of the clear distinctions that they always had to say is that New York State's attempt to collect a tax on a product that we're only bringing into our territories to avoid state tax with the intent of selling to their residents, that they have a right to interfere with that chain of custody. But in all three of these federal cases, Moe, Colville, and Attia, they say, but that is markedly different than imposing a tax on a product that we add value to, that we somehow are engaged in. And I'm not just saying manufacturer. When I say add value to, it could be a product that is marketed as a native product. It could be something we import from one native territory to another. But something where it's a native-to-native transaction that brings a product to our territories for sale. And so when they created this Contraband Cigarette Trafficking Act, they put these blanket definitions of what they could call contraband. Now, what's not in this blanket definition, and this is part of the thing that really concerns me, because even though most of our territories have moved away from the national brands, not because we felt that we had to, and not that we felt that the United States or New York State or anybody else had a legal right to tell us we couldn't. The reason we moved away from the national brands was because of what Philip Morris and Lorillard and R.J. Reynolds and all these companies did when they tried to stick a fork in us. So most of our refusal to sell that product was out of essentially a protest, if you will, or a boycott on those products. Now, there was never any real concession that we would never carry that product, but we were not going to be the whipping boy for Philip Morris anymore. But the problem that I have with the CCTA is there's no distinguishing from a native brand from a national brand. So what was at the core and at the basis of this raid that took place on the Cattaraugus territory of the Seneca Nation was them trying to say that the CCTA could characterize a national brand of tobacco coming to our territory without a New York State stamp on, something that's happened for over 30 years, but they could now characterize that as contraband. Now, if that definition holds up in their law, then they have an easy time making that definition stick to a native brand, whether it's Seneca's or whether it's Signals or whether it's Natives or whether it's Herons or whether it's Pride or no matter whose brand, whatever native brand it is. If they are successful in executing what they've done to Will Perry and what they keep alleging they're going to do to Tonawanda and other places, if they are successful in executing this, there's nothing to stop them from trying to interfere with native-to-native trade. And so we have to we don't have to wait, we can't wait until we get to that point to draw the line in the sand. We got to draw the line now, and we need to make noise about it now. Look, I've overstepped my first 15 minutes, so we're going to take a break and come right back. And I might even let some guests speak in the next session. So this is John Kane, this Let's Talk Data. We'll be right back. You knew I could talk that long without taking a breath. Chance here to do a little plug. My good friend Shirley Snyder from out in Tonawanda Reservation asked me to make an announcement. I made it last week, but I'm going to do it again. The Tonawanda Reservation Historical Society presents its 14th annual exhibit, and that's going to be next Saturday, October 13th. It's at the Tonawanda Indian Community House. That's 372 Bloomingdale Road in Akron. It's from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's free admission. They're going to have traditional foods. They're going to have a Chinese auction. They're going to have a lot of things on display. It's usually a good time. It's a nice community event. So if you are looking for someplace to drive to next weekend, by all means, take the opportunity to go out to Tonawanda and check out their historical exhibit, their annual exhibit they do there. It's a good time. So by all means, do that. And if you see Shirley there, tell her John Kane sent you. All right. I've got pretty much everybody bellied up to the bar here. I've got Matt Hill, I've got Paul Delarone, I've got Ross John and Ed Schindler. First off, I want to thank you guys for all making the trip. Don't all say you're welcome at once. But somebody say something. No?
Yeah.
All right. I know, Paul, you just made it in, so you're the only one who came from a long ways to get here. And You and I are going to take a trip. Take a trip tomorrow. We're going to head down to see our friends down in North Carolina.
Tuscaroras, yeah.
And that's always. I know anytime you and I have made that trip, it's. I know you go there a lot more often than I do, but I'm always impressed at how well received we are when we get down there. It's like they don't even care what they've heard about us.
Because I'm nice.
Well, I'm nice most of the time. Look. I yelled one time when I was down there, but it wasn't at them; it was at others. But anyway, I know we're helping them. They've been facing a lot of challenges on things like hunting and fishing, and I know you've actually gone down and testified in one of their court hearings for on behalf of Kendall Locklear. Yeah. And one of the things that I understood that the judge had said is they have no problem with recognizing their sovereignty, especially as it relates to this hunting and fishing. But they wanted to be able to distinguish who's Tuscarora and not Tuscarora. And so that's part of what we're going down. We're going to try to help them with a little bit of their IDs, show them a little bit more of what the Hood Initially Red Card was about and that kind of thing, and help them reconfigure something for themselves.
Yeah. They haven't had any experience or knowledge in any of this stuff. And, they've asked for help and that, and they've been up here in the north of the Confederacy, and they've been asking for this guidance and help and so on, and people have just not stepped up to the plate for whatever their reasons and that. But I've been dealing with these people for well over 12 years, but I've been back and forth down there for almost 20. And so one of the last meetings I was at, they were trying to solve this problem of theirs, and so I offered a suggestion is that I would bring them samples of like our birth certificates, marriage certificates, and the ID cards, and I told them that not telling them that this is what they have to use, but here's something that could give them a better idea of how to put this together for themselves, but clearly marking that this is them and that that they're not representing anybody else but themselves. And so, and I also committed you to help them with some of the wording,
because I don't just talk, I write too.
Yes, you're right. And I don't know how to write, so.
Yeah, but you're still real good with the talking thing.
Well, it's called BS.
All right, and Ross, I know that things are obviously you're here from Cattaraugus, as Matt and Ed are, but things are really heating up with the political season. The Seneca Nation election is coming up on the second, same as the non-native elections. It's the second Tuesday or first Tuesday of November.
November 6th.
November 6th. Okay. I don't know how much is really at stake in the election, as much as, and in fact, I'm never sure in an election how much is really at stake. I think what's really at stake, and you and I have talked about this in the past, is trying to create a better opportunity for the Seneca people to be more engaged in what takes place, and not just in governance necessarily, but in all facets of life. I think the thing that bothers me the most, as far as from a Mohawk living in Cattaraugus and seeing what's transpired under this previous administration or the current administration, is that there's been a real effort to try to institutionalize everything and try to come up with a Seneca Nation solution where the Seneca Nation is separate from the people. And I know you and I have talked, and everything from these federal raids to the floor tax issue to so many things that are facing the people, the Seneca people. I don't know how there is any strength in dealing with any of those issues if the people are kind of put to the back seat on this thing.
There isn't, and I think that's the thing that we're trying to bring to the table. I mean, some of us anyways, and hoping that is exactly what's at stake. People are, they're jockeying for positions, for council this and council that, and my questions back to those that are running are basically, what are you going to do different? Do you understand the mechanisms out there that have kind of dragged us in a direction that we're in right now, and do you understand that it's not going to, there's no savior.
There's no silver bullet.
There's no silver bullet.
Exactly.
You know, there's no one person or no one organization that's going to do it for us. We're going to have to do it together.